Good morning, friends. We are continuing this discussion in terms of being heaven-minded versus being earthly-minded. And renewing our minds means shifting from the worldly thinking, from our natural thinking, from the ways and the inclinations that we would naturally think about things, and shifting over to the way that God wants us to, our thought life to be directed. That is that we're heavenly minded. One of those things that we talked about last Sunday was that we start to treasure people, that we actually start seeing people differently than we saw them before, that we see them as objects of God's love, that we see them as people for whom Christ died, as people worthy of going after to rescue. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And so I love the way that the Apostle Paul talks about this sort of reorientation of the way that we see people. And again, this is where we're focusing right now. He says in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 16, "So from now on, we no longer regard anyone from a worldly point of view, though we once regarded Christ in this way, we do so no longer." So Paul has said we're making a shift in terms of how we see people in our lives, that we are starting to look at them not as things, but as loved objects, as treasured objects by God. And as we are adopting his mindset, we start to see them as something valuable, somebody that's very valuable and worth Jesus sacrificing his life for. Again, this is a fairly big paradigm shift for us. I remember in seminary, I read a story about the way that people in rural Kansas viewed the people around them. They would view the people whose property abutted their property, no matter how big the acreage was, they would view those people as family. And then they would get in their car, they would drive a number of miles to get to the town, and they would go into the mercantile, the store, and the person behind the counter was machinery. That they were just a part of the apparatus of life. And so they didn't treat them as people, they treated them as machinery. And then as they're driving back home, a group of migrant workers would be driving by them in a truck, and they wouldn't even really see them. It would just be scenery. Family, machinery, scenery. And I believe that God, as we're moving toward a more heaven-minded approach toward people and treasuring people, that God is challenging us to move from a scenery orientation to people, or a machinery orientation to people, to a family orientation toward people, that we value them, that we treasure them. So that's our word for today. That's something to think about, something to begin to put into practice with these neighbors and these students that you're doing life with, and the people in your church, our church, the people at your workplace. All of those things, all of this matter because they matter. Thanks for joining me. I love you.